Hi and welcome back to my channel. I asked you if you want to see how I made my color cards, and here I'm already preparing the cards by stamping my journal note card to some watercolor paper. I'm using cheap watercolor paper here because you don't need anything fancy for these cards. And you can see that I'm masking my stamp with a washi tape so that I have some room left on the card to stamp a color grid later. A better technique than using that washi tape would be to use a post-it note, but I forgot about this idea, and just later while I was making these cards, the idea came to my mind, and then I switched to a post-it note. And with that post-it note, I also covered up 3 of the lines, so I have room for 2 color grids. So I can make color cards with 5 colors or with 10 colors. I'm using these cards mainly for inspiration and also to record color palettes that I like, and I am working with the Neocolor crayons, but you can make these cards with your watercolors or with your watercolor pencils. You can just use what you have and what you like to use the most. After I've stamped the note cards, I'm using that grid block, and I lined up that color swatch grid, and now I stamp it into the cards. Of course, you don't need those stamps to make your own color cards. You can just go without any lines and a grid and just use the back side of your card to note down the color names and maybe make some tiny swatches. I'm stamping with permanent ink as I will blend the new colors with water. The stamp set I've been using here also has some words in it, and I made a title, and then I will add just a number, so I have numbered the color swatch cards. I have cut out the cards with a scissors, and now I can start coming up with some color palettes. I'm using different ways to come up with new color palettes. For the first one, I have just used one of my art books. I have a lot of illustration books here, and I found a picture where I really loved the colors. And here I'm going through my Neocolor palette and have a look which colors are matching the best. And I picked those out, and I will just note them down to this card and fill in the swatch grid, and then I will create a quick little inspirational piece on the front of the card. I recommend that if you have art books at home or illustration books or home decor magazines, then flip through them and see if you find a photo where you love the colors, and then just note the colors down. Even if you don't need them at this moment, they can be a nice collection to have on hand later if you need some inspiration, or if you want to create something different, and then you can come back to your saved color palettes and pick one of them out. I'm blending the Neocolors with water because then they look even brighter, and also I don't want them to make a mess, because if you don't mix them with water, you have to use a fixative so that they don't smear. And of course, I also note down the names of each color I have used. I will now let this dry completely, and then I can create the front, which is a lot of fun, I feel. While this is drying, I will just create another color palette, and this time I will start the color palette with a color that I love, and then we will have a look which colors are matching and can work good with that color. I decided to use a blue, and I really liked, I believe it is the Cobalt blue. And I will start with this one. I also wanted to use maybe the turquoise, but I believe I've used it just before in this palette and I always use turquoise, so I decided to go with another color. Yes, I used the cobalt blue. I will use a color wheel to find some nice other colors to use together with that cobalt blue. I really like that color wheel because you see everything in one place. You don't have to experiment on paper, even if you know which is the complementary and yeah, you know what I mean. But here you can just switch around things and have a look at the possibilities. And I just turn the wheel around because in the middle of that wheel you see different combinations, and I really like that square with the blue and that yellow green, and then you have orange and that purpley red violet color. And now I'm searching for some colors of my stash of the Neocolors that will work nice in this direction. You always have to keep in mind that you don't need to have the full saturated color. You can use a color that is a little bit toned down or lightened up. So you can always use white or black in your color palette to mix them. And here I decided instead of a bright orange, I go with a muted orange, which looks a bit like an ochre. And I believe I'm using a gold ochre or a raw sienna. I don't have it in mind at the moment, but I will later write it on my card. And also for the yellow green, I'm going to pick not the bright yellow green. I will pick a lighter shade, and there is a nice color in the Neocolor collection. I believe it's called lime green, and I think that is a really nice color combo. Now I have all of these colors that the color wheel told me to use in my palette. And now I maybe will fill this palette up with some more shades of the same colors. So I just go to my Neocolor swatch card and look if I find something that fits the color combination. I'm adding 2 light pastel colors to this palette. It's always important to have different color values in your palette to have it interesting. That means you need some light colors and some darker ones. You can easily prove that by making a photo of your finished card and then turn this into black and white, and you should have a big variety of tones. And finally, I note down all the names I have used. For my next card, I will also pick a color that I really love, and I believe it's called Jade here on the swatch card of the Neocolors, and it's a minty green, and I really like that one. And this time I will just go with what I like. I used that crayon and place it against my color card of the Neocolors and look which one I like to combine with it. Here I'm just working more intuitively. I look at all the colors I have and I just use what I feel feels right and looks good. And just as before, I try to have lighter and darker tones. And I think 4 colors are not much, so I just use the card and lay it onto my swatches of the Neocolors, and then I try to find something that is matching and that I like. I decided to stay with these 5 colors. Of course, I could have used a card with only 5 of these color squares at the bottom, but I don't mind that. And now it's time for the even more fun part. I will create a little piece of inspirational artwork at the front of these cards, and this is also a great way to explore the materials you have, and you can see which colors look good beneath each other, if there are some more opaque than others, and that's a really nice and fun process. I've picked all the colors I need, and then I started laying down each of them. I don't have used any gesso on this card. The watercolor paper works brilliant with the crayons. I try to place the colors next to each other that will mix, not muddy. So usually all the warm tones work together and the cool tones, and of course the ones that usually mix good. You have to be a little bit careful with the complementaries. And when you're blending your colors later, you just have to be a bit careful not to mix a muddy color. And as soon as I recognize that it gets muddy, I just clean my brush and start with some fresh water. I've also used the white because it mixes really nice and gives nice pastel tones. I recently made an art journal page that I shared here on YouTube using one of the color cards And I asked you in my Instagram stories which one I should use, and it was a really fun thing. And I have another color palette laying here that you have chosen the last time, and I will work on it for one of the next videos. And here it became a little bit muddy with that brownish red and that turquoise, and then I just stop mixing and clean my brush and go to a different area. I will let this dry again, and later I will come back and make some marks with the crayons on top of this layer. And while this is drying, I will work on the next color card. And exactly for this color combination, I made that art journal page last time. I will link this up at the end of the video. And it's the same here. I will let this dry and then come back later to make some more marks over that first layer. And here I'm playing with the last color combination. My cards are dry now, and I will make some marks with the same crayons I've used for the first layer, of course. And here I'm just searching for the right colors, and it's a really nice way to explore how your material is working. Some colors will be more opaque than others, and some will look good beneath each other and some not. As I had black also in my color palette, I started with this one, and also I can't see much of the white, so I'm using also the white at first. And I'm just scribbling. I just play and do what I like. I don't have any goals, or I don't know what I'm doing. I just explore and play, and it's just a fun part, a fun process, I think. And it also inspires me to create a larger piece in this way. And as I've said just before, the Neocolor crayons need to be fixed if you don't mix them with water. So I will spray a fixative over my finished cards to make sure that nothing comes off. I don't use the fixative on the back side because I've stamped there with waterproof ink, and I am not sure if my fixative will work with this ink. And this is the finished card. I was not happy about this until I played with it in my art journal and I fell in love with this color palette. Now I have to search for the right crayons for my last card. Well, it's not really the last card because after I recorded this video, I wanted to find some unusual Christmas color combinations because I want to make some Christmas mixed media paintings for our home to decorate, and I don't want to use that typical green, red, white colors, and I try to find some palettes that I like that are matching Christmas a little bit. And I made some cards for this as well, and I've recorded that also, and I will just start with them when I have finished this card. For these Christmas palettes, I went to Instagram and searched for, I believe, Christmas illustrations. I can't remember which hashtag I've used. I will write the names of the artists in the video description so you can find those on Instagram. And I'm starting with this illustration. I really love that color combination. I can't remember at the moment which artist it is, but you will find all the names in the description. I will speed up this process a little bit as my video is already pretty long and I don't want to bore you by swatching colors and writing down names. And here is the next illustration I really liked. And I also have a third one, which is a little bit more traditional, but it contains these gold and brown tones. And now it's my favorite part, playing with these colors and just making some marks and blending them. It's, I feel, really a lot of fun and also very inspirational. So if you have a time where you are not inspired and you have maybe kind of a creative block, maybe just create some color cards. And you don't have to be fancy with your painting on the front. You just can lay the colors down to see how they are looking and maybe see how some of them are blending, and that's it. On these two cards I will add more marks with the crayons. And here you can see some of the color cards I've already made. I also posted some photos over on my blog, and you will see some more inspirations over on my Instagram page. I hope you enjoyed this video and you will find it inspiring to create your own cards. Have a nice week. Bye.